So finally on the stage. So I'm on the stage after 3 years. And funny fact, last conference I spoke at was in Feb 2020. And after 2 days, all flights were canceled. So hope you make it home. Cool. So I'm going to talk about NX at Celonis. So Celonis is the company which I work for. And when I was thinking about the topic for this conference, because I have given so many talks on Angular, and I was saving the best for NX Conf. I was just waiting for them to invite me so I can give my first talk about NX at the NX Conf. So yeah, this is happening finally. So I reached out to my manager because I just joined Celonis 3 months ago, 1st of August, yeah, around the same time when I was thinking about the topic. And my manager said, why not to talk about NX at Celonis, because the kind of learning we have is something can be useful for other enterprises. So, OK, here I am with my talk about NX at Celonis. But before I move ahead, I have a very special occasion to share with you. Today, actually, I mark 14 years into tech. I started my career 14 years ago in a small company, like 1-bedroom, hall kitchen office in Mumbai. Never thought that I'll be talking at NXCon for 14 years later, but yeah. So, yeah, thank you so much. So about me, so my name is Santosh Yadav, and Philip also mentioned about me. So I'm a senior software engineer at Celonis. I'm a Google developer expert on Angular. OK. And I'm a GitHub star and Auth0 ambassador. I'm just waiting for NX ambassador program so I can be one. So yeah. And I'm a co-founder of This Is Learning. This is the community which I run with my co-founder and another amazing NX contributor, Lars. I joined this community like around a year and a half ago. And we are expanding, so we are still growing. In case anyone wants to be part of our community, just DM me. I'm available on LinkedIn and Twitter, sorry. And I'm also a co-host for a podcast called This Is Tech Talks, which I, again, co-host with another amazing NX contributor, Jay Cooper Bell. I think most of you know him from the Slack. He is the one who is handling that Slack. So this is where you can find me. I'm available on Twitter, LinkedIn, GitHub with my username called Santosh Yadav Dev. Yep. So let's talk about Celonis and the NX journey we have. Celonis started around 11 years ago, 2011. And they started with a product called Process Analysis. And that time, I think it was more of an in-house application where you go and install the application. And after a few years, actually, they decided to move on to a tech stack where they had AngularJS as frontend and Java as a backend. So what they wanted to do is they wanted to make sure that, OK, now their application can have like front-end developers, back-end developers, and they both work separately, and they don't get into the issues, right? I am sure being front-end developers, back-end developers don't like you, OK? Just kidding. But yeah, so we decided to do this project a few years ago. This is way before I joined Celonis. As I said, I just joined 3 months ago. So they started a project called Celonis 5. It was more of a microservices and micro app architecture. And this is what they decided to do. So let's see the implementation, how it was. So this is the diagram, how Celonis code repository grew. So they added so many apps after they introduced their first app. They kept adding all the new apps into the single repository. Java makes it possible, right? Java and .NET already had concept of monorepos before it came to the front end. So this is how it was way before Celonis 5. So they said, OK, now let's do one thing. So they asked each team to take their application out of that monorepo. And they said, OK, go to your own repository and start building your apps. And so some people were happy, some people are not. So let's see what the problems they faced after doing this, right? So the number of projects grew. So they started like having more and more applications. I think we have around 11 apps already into the monorepo, and we are planning to bring more. But this was not NX. This is like a single repository with Java application and Angular application. So the number of apps started growing. It was a single repository. So you know how difficult it is to have like 11 Java application into single repository. You can just imagine the build times. So they were struggling with all long build times, and then they also faced the issue that code sharing. We had a lot of reusables. They wanted to do like code sharing, and it became a challenge. Dependency updates, again, another issue which we widely face if you're not into monorepo. So they have to always, like some teams are a little bit behind updating Angular, and then some teams are like very active, proactive, and they are just updating the application. And with reusables, for example, our design system, it becomes hard, right? So speaking to 20 different teams, some will say, OK, we'll do it in another sprint. Some will say, OK, we'll do it in Q4. But they don't mention the year. So, and then front-end resources. Then teams realize that, OK, not every application has a dedicated front-end resource allocated. So what they should do, I mean, of course, they can learn about it, but they also have a lot of work to do already. Security incidents, of course, this is a major concern for all the enterprises. Your security team says, OK, this is not going ahead because we have some security incidents, and you have to take care of it. Now, just think about it doing it in 20 different apps. Nightmare, right? And as I mentioned, design system, OK, we are also struggling to introduce or update the design system across all the application. This is where we decided, or Celonis decided, to come up with a new project called One Frontend. Fancy name, isn't it? One Frontend. So this was more of a monorepo thing. So we said, OK, now all the applications, all the front-end applications will come to this One Frontend monorepo. And this will be the new home for all the applications. So this was the before, right? So you saw this picture. I hope you remember it. So it was just a few slides ago. And then they said, OK, we will keep your backends into the same repository, but we will move the front-end apps. So we decided to move all the front-end apps into a separate repository, which was an NX monorepo. And we decided to name this team as well to one team, because now we are not different teams. We are a single team. We are focused on making the best front-end product, and we are there to support each other. So the teams which were actually struggling with the front-end resources, now they also have the front-end resources available. So why NX? I mean, of course, the first question is why NX? Why we decided not to do or not to use something else? So let's see. Of course, the open source. Everyone loves open source, right? I mean, who doesn't love open source? So NX is open source, and it's open source from the day one. And we know what is inside the code base. And enterprises love to just use open source because they can use it for free. But yeah, developers love because they can contribute to it, right? So it was win-win for both, as the developers and for the organization as well. NX CLI, of course, one of the added advantage in case you are already using React, or you are using Angular, or you are using anything, any front-end framework. NX CLI offers a seamless migration. If it is not available, we just saw the talks where you can create your own plugins. So feel free to do that. Supports multiple framework. This is where it really shines. NX supports multiple frameworks. You can actually just go ahead and run the OK. So you can just run npx create workspace and then NX workspace. And you can choose. There are different templates, or you can say the presets which are already available. If you want more, you can create your own. We just saw one for Go, one for Rust, like .NET, which is done by Gregory. So it made our life easier. Enterprises support. Of course, as I said, enterprises love open source because it's free, but they also need the enterprise support when it is needed. So it's not like we can just use anything and then struggle with it, right? So in case we need some enterprise support, NX has that. Developers love long build times, right? So they can grab a coffee and take a break. So the NX decided to say, okay, no coffee breaks, so faster build times for you. So whenever you build something, you can just do a build, and then, oh, it's there. So I cannot go for coffee break. So faster build times for everyone. It's not like you have to go to NX Cloud. It's available for everyone. Once you move on to the NX, you just get the faster build times, because the builds you get, most of them are cached. You have to just make sure that your application is properly structured. You cannot just have a single app and say, OK, why my build times are slow? So just another thing was a dependency graph. This is really beautiful because I love it, because while consulting with some large clients, this is something which gave a great value to me, being a consultant and guiding the team, that how you can actually break your application and how to visualize it. So here I have a small example, right? I don't want to give some fancy example where there is nothing visible on the screen and you're wondering what is that. So just small application with three apps and few libraries. So you can see about home and process mining, and I have tried to follow the boundaries, which was just, there was a talk about it. So you can see it's always like libraries which is being consumed by your applications. Buildable and publishable libraries. I'll talk about it a lot because this is something which brings a lot of value to enterprises, or in case you are using NX. Really sorry. So in case you have reusables, I think the first thing which you should do is move them to buildable library in case you're not planning to publish them. It's good to have publishable libraries, but this is what I have figured out, that once you move all the applications within the monorepo, you don't need to publish your library anymore. Because you publish your library just in case it needs to be consumed by 10 different applications. Just think now, those 10 applications are part of your monorepo. No need to publish it, right? So you save some time there, like your CI time, you don't have to like connect to your NPM or whatever Artifactory. So you can just like move everything into a buildable library once you figure out that, okay, all the apps are part of the monorepo now. Buildable library is also something which you can cache. So let's go to this image here, right? So here, for example, let's say you make some changes into the about thing. So you make some changes into about code, and UI, state, and data access is already pre-built, and you can just retrieve it from the cache, saving a lot of time for you. So just make sure that you are doing this properly, because by default, the libraries which you create is not buildable or not publishable. So you have to pass -f buildable flag or publishable flag. This is what I generally do. Once my team is comfortable with libraries, I just go to the nx.json and provide the default schematics, where all the libraries created in future is buildable by default. So yeah. Standard command for all the apps and libs. You don't have to find, OK, should I do npm start, or should I do npm run start, or should I do npm start app, something like you might have seen or struggled with a lot of different commands. But with NX, you have like NX build, NX test, NX lint, and you can bring your own commands by using run command schematics. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of it, but if you're not using it, go ahead and use it. It's amazing because you can just plug in with the existing what you can say, the commands which you have, and you can say, OK, this will run this commands. For example, if you want to do build, test, and lint together, you can just try and just use run commands and pass it together. So that's a pretty cool command as well. Ability to customize workspaces. I think there were so many talks about generators and executors. This also brings a lot of value to Celonis as well, because before moving to the NX, we have something called widgets, where we actually create widgets, and so the others can actually create models on the fly. So it's like the EMS app which we have. It has small widgets, so end user can actually build some workflow by their own. So we call them as widgets, and every widget had some scripts which we need to execute before they start building a new widget. And once we decided to move to NX, this is what we did. So we decided to create an generator and make it automated. So we don't have to run this command for a new application, right? Or we don't have to do it every time we are adding something new, or have it 10 times in 10 different repositories. So now we can just have a generator, and then it does it for us. In case you want to learn more about generators, the next talk is by Lara about the generators as well. This is what I really love about 10x. They try to reduce the breaking changes as low as possible. They are always up to date with 10x, with the Angular. Of course, I'm sure with React as well, but I'm not that active in the React community, so I know about Angular. Sometime I wonder they can just release Angular faster than Angular, but yeah. OK, so individual project.json. This is something very I really loved it when this feature came in. I was consulting for a very large enterprise application, and we were struggling with AngularJS. How many of you is still on AngularJS and not using project.json? I would say move on, because it saves a lot of headache. Because when we had AngularJS, it was like after every PR, or most of the PR, where you are adding new libraries, or you're making some changes into the, let's say, structure, you're adding some application, there used to be always a conflict. I mean, not between the developers, but yeah, two different versions of AngularJS. So when project.json came in, this is the first thing which I did. I moved everything onto project.json. And it saves a lot of time, because developers, when they are developing, they don't think about these conflicts, right? I mean, once they push it on the CI, and then they realize, OK, there is some conflict. And then they just do it again, push again, and to resolve those conflicts. And sometimes, some smart developer like me overwrite things, right? Breaking everything. So with project.json, it becomes very easy. You're not breaking the entire app again in future. And you have all the dependencies, all the commands which you need for the specific app into its own project.json. So I think there is a schematic available. So if you're wondering how to do it, the schematic is available. You can just migrate it using that schematic on project.json. We use Just and Cypress, and this is what actually NX gave us by default, right? So whenever you create a new application, you get Cypress, you get Storybook, because Storybook is really important. I mean, in case you have a design system of your own, it becomes really difficult, right? I mean, creating a demo app, publishing it somewhere. But you can just do it by Storybook, and huge shout out to Katrina, who has been updating NX always with the latest changes on Storybook. So this is what we also needed at Celonis. So we wanted this Cypress and Just support, so we can write our own end-to-end tests. And we also have, of course, testing team who is also writing their own Cypress. I mean, this is something where we are still trying to figure out what tests should be written by developers, what tests should be written by the testers. But I believe that it's for everyone. Cypress is an amazing tool, and Cypress team has done pretty much great job in building Cypress. So yeah. Module federation. So this was something which was really important for us, because I'll just go back few slides if I can find it again. I just want to go. Here, right? So why we had a structure like this? Why we had a single repository with all apps? So the application which we have, it's the EMS frontend, or EMS, Enterprise Management Suite. It actually is a combination of multiple applications. So this is something like, OK, you get access to all this different 10 applications inside a single app. And when we decided to move to NX, this was a huge win-win for us, because we moved when NX 13 came. And NX 13 had, I think there was no schematic, but there was a guide from Column, actually, how to migrate to module federation. And we used that guide to migrate to module federation, so we can actually have entire app, a single app, like driving our 10 different applications. And that's where the NX really helped us to adopt this micro frontend and module federation thing. And it was easy, right? So you already had all the guides written. It was an amazing guide. If you are now schematics is available, but in case you want to read that, you can just go to nx.dev, and then the entire guide is still available. Any open source project is incomplete without the community support, and this is where NX really shines. It has a huge community support, a lot of plugins which is available. Just you can do OK. This is the schematic to generate module federation project. Sorry. So you can just pass host, and you can pass number of remotes. This is something which is really useful at Celonis as well, because we are still trying to bring more applications, and having a schematic or generator really helps. We don't have to do it anything manually now. And talking about community, of course, NX has a huge community. You can just do yarn NX list, and you will get all the plugins which are available. So Devin gave one about Ionic. He talked about Ionic, and then that plugin is also available. I think Dominic has been doing a great job with his plugin system. So he has actually done a pretty good job in actually collecting all the different plugins which are available and bringing them into a monorepo, and he has been managing that and driving with the teams. So yeah. Next thing was NX Cloud. Of course, we were struggling with the slow build times. So we are exploring NX Cloud. We are still not using NX Cloud. I was speaking to someone. I was like, OK, this is the only thing which I have not used so far in the production, but I will make sure I'll use it soon. So you can do NX. You can start using NX Cloud just by using connect to NX Cloud command. And this is how it looks like. So I tried to actually do it on my small app, which I created inside Celonis. So you can see the first build actually took some time. It's around 1 minute. But when I rerun that same build, it was less than 1 second. So NX Cloud is amazing. GitHub Actions, this is what we needed, because not everyone is an expert in writing GitHub Actions, right? No, not me, at least. So NX now has GitHub Actions provided already. You can just start using that NX GitHub Actions. I think it has also GitLab support, so you can choose whether you want to use GitHub Action or you want to go with the GitHub builds, and it will set it up for you. You don't have to do anything. And as a developer, we like to save the time, right? So we can have a coffee break. So let's talk about the future at Celonis. What else? I mean, of course, we have been using NX from a year now, but we value NX. So we realized that even our management realized the value which is brought by bringing the NX monorepo. So we are able to deliver features faster, and which is a huge boost for our productivity. And as we are someone who is always delivering some new features to our clients, NX just helps us to deliver faster. OK. So as I said, we are still not done, and we are planning to bring more apps into the monorepo. So we are talking to other teams, of course, and by the end of the quarter, or end of the year, or the first quarter, we will try to bring everyone inside the NX monorepo, so we can start publishing or stop publishing the libraries apart from the design system, and have better support for all the developers within the Celonis ecosystem as well. NX Cloud, as I mentioned, we are still not using NX Cloud, but we are exploring it because we need that. We already have around 10 applications, and the build times are increasing as we bring more applications to it. So we are going to explore NX Cloud in parallel builds as well in the future. So let's see a small summary why we decided to do it. Multiple framework support. We are not doing it today, but yeah, we may decide to actually use it in future. We are a huge Angular fan, right? I'm a huge Angular fan. And so module federation. So this was very important to us, as I said, because we are actually loading multiple applications inside the same application, and module federation was a huge actually advantage for us. Micro frontends, we are not using micro frontends yet, because NX documentation has a great difference between, or great explanation between what is module federation and what is micro frontend. So should read about it. And workspace customization, as I said, we had some widgets which we wanted to bring into monorepo, and with the help of workspace customization, or you can say generators, it became easy for us. Enterprise support, of course, as I mentioned, that OK, every company loves open source, but they also need enterprise support. So in case just they need something custom, or they get into some issues, they can get some help. And final, NX Cloud. So I'm sure NX Cloud has, you saw the numbers in morning. NX Cloud is growing, and I think it will grow even further because it brings a huge value to the enterprises. So I'll be talking more about NX, more NX love. I'll be spreading around the world. So I'm talking at JS Poland next week. So my talk is Be Smart, Choose NX. Of course, no brainer, right? And then I'll be talking about planning and migrating your app, probably in London for Modern Frontend Live. And finally, some Angular love as well. So I'll be talking about Angular Router Masterclass in 25 minutes at NG Rome in Italy. So a few shout-outs. First, of course, the NX team for the opportunity and organizing this conference. So huge round of applause for the entire NX team, please. Thank you. And my friends, Yazan, Michael, and Bad, hope they are watching this talk because they helped me a lot to prepare the slides and prepare this talk. And some shameless plug, but yeah. So this is my YouTube channel, and I recently launched an 17-hour Angular course on Free Code Camp, free for the community. This is my gift for the community for the support I received this year. It was a difficult year for me, but every one of you actually gave a huge support, and this was my way of saying thank you. So it's free for everyone, so in case anyone of your friends wants to learn Angular, it covers everything they need to learn, and I'll be publishing more courses next year on Free Code Camp. It will be about Angular 15 and state management as well, so they can become great developers and start using it in enterprises. So thank you so much for having me, and in case you want to connect, you can just drop me a DM on Twitter, LinkedIn, or you can just also see what I do on GitHub as well with the same handle, Santosh Yadav Dev. So yeah, thank you so much.